Hey y'all, it's Diane with Shawcraft One and my old barn door, and I had a subscriber ask me, I had one subscriber ask me how I put the little golden books together, how I keep them in order, and then I had one subscriber ask me how I sew the buttons on the spine. So I thought I'd just do a few videos. I'm going to try and do them in short increments so that it doesn't take so long to load them to YouTube, but that way you can watch each one, little by little. But I just thought I would let you follow me through the process of what I do when I make my little golden books. So the first thing I do, I like to keep, some people cut off this part of the spine. I like to keep that part because it just gives me a little more room, and it makes the pages fit into the book a little better. Now, in looking at this little golden book, this one's a fairly new one, but you can see, well, if I can get it to focus. Anyway, maybe you can see better this way. These pages are already longer than the cover of the book, so I'm gonna have to do a little bit of work with that. So, but the first thing I do, there is no technical way of doing this other than you can see in the little golden book spine, you can see a staple right there, and you can see a staple right there. So what I like to do is get those staples out, and it's difficult. It's not an easy task. So I have a butter knife. Woo! Real technical, right? Look what I've done to the end of it. I have chewed up the end of my little butter knife, but that's okay because it's for the craft room. So I just kind of eyeball and see where my staple is, and then I'm going to go in right here with my butter knife, and I'm just going to wiggle till I can get that staple loosened up. And I'm trying not to damage the book or the book pages. And you're going to get a little bit of damage because it's just not something that can be helped. That sometimes these little golden books can be really, really hard to take apart. So I'm just going to keep wiggling until I can feel that staple loosen up. Okay, and then I'm going to go down here to the bottom, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to slide my little butter knife in. And you would probably have less damage if you would use a butter knife that you haven't chewed up already, but I don't have another one in here right now, so. So I'm just kind of loosening up that spine, and you can tell, that it's getting loose. And then I'm going to go to the back, and I'm going to do the same thing. Because what that's going to do, the back is where the staples are connected. So it makes it a little easier to kind of pull and tug at it from the back side, because you're going to get a little bit more give. Okay, so we're just going to kind of pull, and then I'm going to tug and tug, and so now I have my staples out somewhat. And now I'm going to go to the front of the book, and I'm going to pull this out. So then you have this, okay? Now, you have two signatures usually in a little golden book. So, but I've kept them in order, and they'll stay that way. So I'm going to set those to the side and work on getting these staples out. So I have a pair of pliers, and I'm going to just take the staple, and I'm just going to kind of push on both sides of that little staple. And you can straighten them up if you need to give you a little more room to push. But I'm just going to push, and you see what happens? It's going to come out the other side. And then I'm just going to take this, and I'm not going to worry about the damage to this gold part because it's going to be covered up anyway. So then I'm just going to pull this out. Now you can use a staple remover too, but I found that you get less damage if you do it this way. So I'm going to go to this end, push that staple, straighten it up a little bit so I can push it straight down. And hopefully you could hear that, but it popped through the other side of the spine. So we're going to just push that through, and you could hear the little pop. So you pull it to, or you come over to the front side of it, and you can just pull that staple out. Makes it real easy. So now you have your cover. Okay, so, and you have your cover in one piece, and the reason I like to keep this is because, you know, it gives you more room in the book. So then you got to get these separated, and you have this little center piece here that you need to separate, because you need the front, because we're going to make this spine bigger, because, you know, of course that's not a big enough spine, so we're going to need to make the spine bigger. So I just take my scissors and I'm just going to cut right down the center of this spine. You can take it, you can use an X-Acto knife if you prefer that. Whatever works best for you. You just want to get it cut in half. Now what I do, this little piece here that bends, I use that to anchor my new spine onto. So that's another reason why I like to keep that. So the next step we're going to make, let's get some of these tools put up and out of the way. The next step we're going to take is making the spine. So we first need to know how big to make our spine. I usually make my spine about 2 inches wide, because that gives you enough. I like to leave an inch per signature. So you're going to have 2 signatures. So I'm going to do a 2-inch spine. And then the little golden book itself is 7 7/8 inches. So I'm going to have a 2-inch spine by 7 7/8 inches. So what I do is I take my handy dandy little pizza box, or a cheese cracker box, or I think that was maybe a cereal box. Just find you some, you know, some scrap chipboard somewhere to work with. Let me see how wide this is. Oh, that's 2 inches. Perfect. Is this one 2 inches? That's 2 inches. So see, we won't even have to cut those. So I usually use 2 pieces of chipboard, and these are real thin chipboard. These are just from pizza boxes. So I'm going to pull out my trimmer, and I have a specific blade that I use on my trimmer for chipboard, and I somewhat wrote on it, but it's about faded off now, but I can still tell. So I'm just going to change out my blade, because the chipboard is going to dull your blade pretty quickly. So you're going to go through those a lot more. And it will, sorry about the shake, it will also make marks in your paper. And it'll cut your paper crooked. So anyway, that's just how I do it. Okay, so I'm going to take my 2-inch chipboard, and I'm going to go to 7 7/8 over here. And cut him. 7 7/8. And cut. Okay, so now I have my spine. Uh-oh, lost my blade. Let me just fix that real quick, because if I don't find it now, I won't ever find it. Alright, so then I just want to measure and make sure that that's going to line up good. And you can see this little piece right here, it's kind of in the way. So I am going to take my X-Acto knife and just trim that off a little bit. That way it just gives you a straighter edge to work with, and you don't have anything in the way. So we'll go ahead and do that with this one too. And it's real easy to do it that way because you have the chipboard of the book to kind of guide your little knife. Okay, so then I'm going to take my books and put them the way I want to see them in sorry, there's something going on with my phone here. Oh, it's an alarm. The way you want them as your book. Alright, and then I'm just going to take my trusty old Aleene's tacky glue, and I'm going to glue on this part of the spine. And I'm just going to smear it in a little so it doesn't go everywhere. And then I'm going to do the same thing on this side. And smear it in. And then I'm going to take my chipboard piece and line it up with just the spine of what was the original spine of the book. So you just want to make sure you line it up pretty good and press down. And I'll always take a napkin and swipe down just to make sure I don't have glue leaking out the side. Now this one needs to come over a little bit more. And I'm just kind of moving the chipboard around to make sure that it's lined up really well with this actual spine of the book. Okay, so I want to just hold that down for a minute. And you can even take a bone folder and kind of press it in. You just kind of want to give it a minute for that glue to get dry good. Okay, now I want to make sure that I'm straight. So I use my cutting mat below, and I can tell that my book is a little crooked, and we don't want a crooked book, so I'm just going to make some adjustments. And you want to do this while your glue is still drying. You don't want to wait until it's dry and then you got to take it apart and redo everything. So I'm just going to push that a little bit. Yeah, that looks pretty straight. Good deal. So now we've got it good and straight. Everything's lined up. We're going to flip it over. Now, I'm going to hold this up a little bit. See, that still don't look straight to me. Maybe it's just my eyeballs because it is straight. Okay. Playing with my eyeballs. Alright, so you can see if I can hold this up to where you can tell. You got a little ridge here. So you're actually going to have a gap in this spine. So I like to fill that in with chipboard so that, you know, there's no gap in there. So I'll usually just measure. And this is 1 1/8 inch. So I'm just going to grab another piece of chipboard. And this one will almost fit, so we're just going to need to do a little bit of trimming up. So I'm going to grab my trimmer. I have way too much stuff on my desk. Grab my little trimmer here and let me get my chipboard blade out because I already switched it out. I don't know what I was thinking. So swap out my blade, put my chipboard blade in there, and then we're going to go here trying to see if I can get this to where you can see the bottom of my, I have too much stuff in the way. So we're going to go to 1 1/8 inch. And we're going to try and get this real good and straight, which it's hard when you're cutting a piece this small. But we're going to try. So what I usually like to do is get it lined up and then close and cut. Oops. Okay. And then again, we know that our spine is 7 7/8 inches. So we're just going to trim this at 7 7/8 inches. Lost my blade again. Y'all, this thing is so old. I have used it. And I have a Martha Stewart trimmer, but I tend to like this one better because it's got that little string in there that helps you to line stuff up a little easier. Okay, so now we've got our inside piece cut, and we're just going to slide that down in there to make sure we fit good. And it doesn't have to be perfect, because basically what you're trying to do is just fill in the gap a little bit. And that looks pretty good. So we're just going to take our Aleene's glue, put some glue in there, and add our little piece of chipboard in. Okay, and then we're going to take our other 2-inch chipboard. This is going to be the spine, remember. And we're going to make sure it lines up, and it does. So then we're just going to add some glue. And I'm even going to put it on the center piece, because I want it to stick in the middle as well. And that's just going to give us a good hard spine to work with. And it's going to be a sturdy spine, so you're never going to have to worry about your book coming apart. Okay, and then we're going to line him up. Press him down, and then wipe off any excess glue that decides it wants to squirt out. And I usually do have excess glue because I tend to be heavy-handed with my glue. Okay. And usually what I'll do, once I have this process done, you can kind of see, it's going to have a hard time focusing on that. But anyway, you can see that you've got the 3 layers of the spine in there. So now, I would let this dry before, normally, but I'm just wanting to show you. You have your 2-inch spine, and it's going to be a little more than 2 inches because you're going to have that little part where it gives. Okay, so that's how you create your spine. And then you can take a fabric of your choosing, and let me choose a fabric because I haven't got that far yet. Hang on. Okay, so I have these 2 fabrics, and I'm just going to kind of hold them up and see which one I like the best. I like that one. That one's pretty. But I almost think I might like this one better. Y'all, I don't know if y'all can hear my puppy, but she's dreaming in her sleep. And she's barking at something in her sleep. I kind of like this one. So I think this might be the one that we're going to go with. So what I tend to do is, I know that I have 2 inches across in my spine. So I just kind of take my ruler and I kind of measure to see how far over, because I don't want my fabric to come over real far. So I'm thinking a 1/2 inch on this side and a 1/2 inch on this side of the spine. So that gives us another inch, so we're going to need 3 inches. So we want our fabric to be 3 inches wide. We know we're 7 7/8 inches long, so we're going to need, let's just say 8 inches plus 8 inches for the inside of the spine. So we're going to need 16 inches long by 3 inches wide. So that's how we're going to cut our fabric. So let me cut the fabric and I'll be right back. Actually, I'm going to let you guys watch while I cut the fabric, because I'm actually not going to cut it. I'm going to rip it because I like the look of that better, and it tends to do better that way. So let me see if I can move the camera a little bit. Whoops, not that much. Y'all, my tripod's breaking. I'm gonna have to buy another one. Can y'all see that? So we're at 16 inches. 1 to 16 inches. So I'm going to give myself a 1/2 inch more just to play with, because you can always trim it off. So I'm just going to snip it a little bit and rip. Okay, so that's the length that I need for the inside and outside cover. Now we need to go for the width. So I'm going to go this way, and I'm going to give myself a little room for give. So we got 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to give myself a 1/4 inch extra just to make sure I have enough. And then I just snip it. Well, you might want to snip it enough to where you can rip it. So we're snipping and ripping. There we go. Okay, and so this, let me just turn the camera down a little bit. Sorry, don't mean to make you dizzy. So this is going to be the fabric for our spine. So then I like to fray the edges. I just like that look. You don't have to fray the edges, and if you don't want the edges frayed, you can cut it instead of ripping it. But I just like it. So I'm just going to pull a few strings out. All the way around, and that one's pretty frayed, so I think we're good. We're going to get rid of that. So this is going to be the cover for our spine. So we're going to bring our book back over, and I like to start down at the bottom when I'm gluing, and I like to leave a little bit of extra at the bottom so that I can tuck it under, so that you have a good clean edge on it. So what I'm going to do is I'm taking my Aleene's glue again, and I'm just going to apply the glue to the spine of the book. And then I'm going to go over here on the edge and in this crease on the front and the back cover. Okay, and then I take my finger and I just kind of rub it all in, because I don't want the lines of the glue to show up through the fabric. And this will also tell me if I have enough glue. And I like to have a pretty good bit of glue down in this crease. And I need a little bit more glue here. Just to fill in those gapped up areas. Okay. Wipe that off. Probably need to get a baby wipe. Okay, so I'm going to take my fabric and I'm going to kind of position it where I want it, making sure that I'm going in a straight line. Probably would help if I would line it up with my mat, but I've already got it into position now. And then I'm just going to take an old credit card or gift card or whatever, and I'm just going to make sure that not only do I rub it into the glue, but I'm pulling at it to make sure I get any wrinkles out of it, because I don't want wrinkles in the fabric. And then I'm also pushing it down into that little crease, just like that, where that bend was. Okay. And there's a little bit of a wrinkle right there. So I'm going to pull down at the bottom. No, that's not going to work. Let me see if I can just brush it out this way. And this is why I like using like a gift card or a credit card, because you can really feel the wrinkles in it and get all the wrinkles out. And then I'm going to flip it over, and I'm going to do the same thing on the inside. And I think once we get this covered, then we'll stop the video and we'll do the next bit of it in a different video, so that, because we're already at like 25-26 minutes. Make sure you get it down in the crease real good. I'm trying to hurry now so that the video's not forever long, but I'm kind of over trying to make fast videos or short videos because, well, it's next to impossible with me running my mouth, so I gave up on it. Okay, so we're just going to rub our glue in, make sure we've got all the gaps. Yeah, okay. And then we're going to take the bottom piece, where I said I like to have it to where it will fold over, and I'm just going to pull it in, rub it down, get it in the crease, and then we'll take this piece and come all the way down to the bottom and take our little gift card / credit card, whatever we have on hand, and just rub it in and rub out our wrinkles. I think this is going to be pretty. Okay, and then down here at the bottom, you see we've got this little gap from where we didn't have any glue on the fabric. So we're just going to go back and add a little glue here so that we can get him stuck down good. Okay, so we're just going to rub that in so that we've got everything covered, and then we can put our fabric down. Now, you don't have to do this part where you know, you have that extra piece of fabric. I just like to do it so that once we're finished, you know, you can't see the cardboard at the bottom. And I actually like having a little bit of the fabric, the frayed fabric, hanging down from the bottom. So that's how we do the spine. That's how we create our spine. And then you can just kind of, I would probably usually let this dry before I folded it, you know, but just to let you see it. And usually what I do is once I let it dry, I'll go back in and rub here as I fold up so that it gets down in there real good. And it sticks together real good for that spine. So there we go. That's how we do the cover of our little golden book. So I guess the next video we'll do, I'll show you how to put the signatures together, and then probably on a third video I'll show you how to sew them in and put the buttons on the spine. So that is the beginning of the makings of a little golden book. So if you like this video, hit like. If you're not yet a subscriber, hit subscribe. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comment section below. And thanks for watching. You guys have a great day. Big hugs.